Hello everyone, this is Dr. Endo with Westerville Chiropractic and Nutrition, and I am posting on another episode of Up the Ladder, and today's should be a really insightful podcast because I want to talk about mental health a little bit. So this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and so with everything going on recently, mental health has been and should be probably more a really huge topic that needs to be discussed and brought out, especially over the last 6 months or so, because suicides are so rampant right now, overdoses are so rampant right now. People's anxiety and depression have skyrocketed, and we're seeing that in current patients that we're taking care of. We're seeing that with ourselves and family members in the office. And so this is a really, I believe, important topic. And if there's anything that we can do to maybe help lighten your burden and give you some tools in your tool belt to maybe lessen the anxiety and or depression and or just issues, life stress that you're dealing with right now, then I think obviously this week is an amazing week to look at that. But in general, this month and in this season that we're all in, I think it's crucially important. I would start out by saying by no means are any of these tools that I'm going to talk about a replacement to medications that you should be on or are currently taking. Obviously, if you need to speak with somebody about your mental health and getting some medication to help with that, then I'm all on board with that. And again, we want to be a resource for you, not a replacement or anything like that. So, but on the flip side of that, I think these are healthy, natural. These will not interfere with any medications that if you are on medications. If you just need a little bit of an extra boost, that's what these are meant for. If you need someone to talk to, if you're really struggling and you need someone to talk to, don't hesitate to reach out at the office. I'm here for you. Angela's here for you. Renee's here for you. Any of our staff would be happy to just chat and or point you in the right direction if you need some additional help, guidance, or just resources on someone else that you can talk to as well. So that being said, like I said, this time of year, I posted last Friday about just everything happening in the news, everything happening with our kids' schooling, everything happening, everywhere you look, there is a lot of doom, gloom, stress, anxiety, and it's really hard to escape from. And so this week we are going to be sharing, in this month actually, we're going to be sharing a lot of the things that we do ourselves in the office, and what things that we believe work, things that are backed by science and we know make a difference in reducing stress levels. I think the next 30, 60, 90 days are going to be probably more crazy than the previous ones. And so being really mindful to pick a couple of these and build these habits into your daily routine, I've seen myself, and I think would make a drastic difference in your stress, anxiety levels, and how those show up, not just mentally, but also how they're showing up physically, because we're seeing both in the office. Some people are struggling mentally, and other people, that underlying chronic stress that we've been experiencing for the last 6 months is now starting to show up physically. Both physically in the aspect of their muscles and tension and spine, but also physically in what's happening with their digestive system, what's happening with the lack of sleep is catching up in different other systems. And so picking a couple of these habits and making them your own, there's not a better time to do it if you're not already doing some of these already. So the first one that I've got down, and they're in no specific order, the first one I have is journal. So I started looking at journaling probably a year or so ago. More specifically, the first of the year, I'd been reading a lot about how much journaling made a really big impact on so many other people's lives. So doing some reading about journaling and some of the people I look up to, how journaling consistent journaling has made it a significant difference for them. And so I am not as consistent as I would like to be, but some things that I picked up about journaling. Number one, gratitude is huge. And if journaling only looked like writing down 3 to 5 things every day that you are honestly thankful for, I think would significantly impact your outlook and your biochemistry and your emotional state. I think so. Gratitude is a big one. For me, what I was really specifically looking at when I was looking at journaling, and I found very interesting, was just trying to get a grasp of what emotions am I currently feeling, what emotions stuck out for the day, and trying to understand some of those emotions and not understanding where they came from or why they came, but just labeling them so I can recognize those emotions. I think that has been super helpful. I think for a lot of people, again, with stress and everything else going on right now, we're overwhelmed. And so having a sense of looking at your day, before it starts, or looking at your day at the end of the day, and kind of recapping or organizing what you need to focus on today, or should have focused on, and then prioritizing that for maybe tomorrow makes a really big difference. An app that I use is called, I'm maybe pronouncing it wrong, but it's Jour or Jur. It's Jour, and it prompts you several questions every day about to answer, and you can freely type your responses, or you can go through specific programs designed around gratitude or designed around certain topics. And so I've set mine so that every night at 10 o'clock it sends me a little ding and asks me if I would like to comment on how my day was. And so I jump in there and it asks me what I'm feeling and what I felt, and a ton of different prompts. And so I'm not just staring at a blank page. Sometimes I like to do that, but I also find that those prompts are also super helpful. So again, it just brings some awareness to your emotions and what you're doing. So again, that was Jour, and I found journaling very helpful. So that was number one. Number two is prayer. I think the church I go to is Rock City Church. Everything is online still currently right now, and they just finished up a 40 days of fasting and prayer. I didn't partake in the fasting as much as I normally would because of everything else going on right now, but the prayer was a big aspect. The beginning of the year, they normally do a 21 days of fasting and prayer. And so I have a workbook on those 21 days that we would typically do at the beginning of the year. If anyone would like some prompts or some scriptures to look at to really walk you through a 21 days of prayer, I think that can be extremely valuable. And again, these are things that have helped myself and other people in the office, and And so that would be something that if you're a person of faith, really consider looking at that if you're not already doing that. Number 3 is meditating. So a couple years ago, I took a transcendental meditation course, weekend course, and it was fantastic. I do not do it twice a day like it recommends. I'd love to get at least once a day. That's my goal, is try to get some meditation in once a day. There's some research out that says that meditating for 30 minutes a day can be just as effective as taking antidepressants. I think there is a lot of benefit to meditating. I think a lot of the benefits of meditation also revolve around breath work, which we'll talk about next. But there's tons of different types of meditation. This month we'll also be posting several guided meditations from yoga studios that we've connected with. I've also taken just YouTubed guided visualizations or guided meditations, and those can be super powerful and beneficial, especially if you have a certain topic about some things that you would like to meditate on or kind of work through. Those can be super helpful. In general, I think being quiet and kind of reflecting for 10 to 20 to 30 minutes a day is going to have huge impacts. A lot of people are going to probably fall asleep if you are in a situation like that, and that's okay too, right? So that's one of the biggest things in learning about meditation is it's okay if you're thinking too much. It's okay if you fall asleep. It's the consistent practice of it in the long term that makes the biggest difference. So if you want any additional resources on meditation, happy to help. But I would start with, there's meditation apps that you can also look at, but I would just start with YouTube and doing some guided visualizations or meditations. The next one is box breathing. So I think I've been looking heavily at different types of breathing over the last year and a half. I've done Wim Hof's breathing class. In fact, a couple of us at the office have done, his cold exposure and breathing techniques. I think it's super beneficial. I'm not sure it's great at calming down. It's really good for getting you to a point where you can control your breathing to do cold exposure. But as far as actually doing breathing for to balance the sympathetic and parasympathetic, I think there's some better options out there. And so what I've been looking at lately is called box breathing. And essentially it's you breathe in to a count of 4, you hold it for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4, and you hold it out for a count of 4. And you just do that for however long you have time for. If it's a couple breaths, that's great. If it's 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, that's obviously going to be better. The way I use it a lot is if I'm doing some light exercise, so walking the dog, going for a walk, doing something really easy, I'll try to incorporate that breath work into something I'm already doing. So you can also include it into your meditative practice, where you just kind of get into a sync and a routine of doing this box breathing as you're trying to, be quiet and just calm your mind. So box breathing is super important, really great at balancing out your the two different parts of your nervous system. My biggest form of stress relief right now is exercise. On days where I don't get to exercise, I'm just a lot more stressed out and pent up than the days that I get that in. My schedule has been a lot more sporadic right now than it was this summer because of kids' school and activities, and as a family we're just running a lot more, and so my exercise routine has certainly suffered from that, and I can tell mentally and physically how it affects my sleep, how it affects my mood, my overall day is huge differences on days that I get to exercise and then I don't. to really balance out your the neurotransmitters in your nervous system and get the happiness that comes with exercise, you really only need 15 to 30 minutes a day. That's not much. That's the simple walk at lunch. That's a simple walk after dinner. And again, it's more of building it into your habits and your routine. It does not have to be this crazy HIIT workout every day. It certainly can be. And I would also take a look at, if you are struggling stress-wise right now, you also want to look at the types of exercises you're doing. You don't necessarily always want to just focus on super intense, super stressful, very difficult workouts where you're listening to loud music. You want to balance out a couple of those a week, but you also want to have some restorative exercises where you are just walking, you're doing a yoga class, you're doing Tai Chi class, you're doing something that balances and brings down some of those. So walking, yoga, Tai Chi. Don't forget to incorporate some restorative exercises. If all you're doing is restorative, that's okay. But I think having a mix of at least 2 a little bit higher intensive workouts per week mixed in with some of the restoratives, stress-wise is going to be, I think, much more beneficial for you. The next point number 6 that I've got is social and family time. And so again, tremendous amount of research that just shows that people who have a network of friends, family, people they can lean on or talk to, have tremendously better coping and mechanisms and mental health, and maybe not less stress, but they process that stress a little bit better. And so again, if you're in a situation where you feel like you have that that network, please let us know. We're here. Okay, so we're happy to lend an ear and grab coffee or do something like that if you don't feel like you have that network. If you do have that network, don't be afraid to lean on them, right? Especially us men have a tendency to keep our emotions bottled up. But again, grabbing a drink, grabbing coffee, even if it's just over text, connecting with somebody makes a huge difference. I also think that reaching out and checking on others is also extremely beneficial. I've been trying to be much more mindful the last couple of months about some of my friends that I've connected with, really on a much more consistent basis, not letting life get in the way, and just checking over text and say, hey man, I'm thinking of you. What's going on? Anything you need to chat about? And as they reciprocate that, it makes me feel good, but it also has a tremendous benefit to offload some of the things that are affecting us right now. So if you don't have a strong tribe like that, work on building that, but also don't be afraid to reach out to people who you think could be part of that tribe. Next one is massage. This is one of everyone's favorites, and I will say our massage practice has definitely been busier the last month or two. Part of it's because we have amazing massage therapists, and the other part of it is people are super stressed out, and a really great massage is extremely beneficial at dealing with some of the physical aspects of how stress is showing, right? Tense and tight, our shoulders up at our ears. But it's also 30 or 60 or 90 minutes where it's quiet, relaxing music, and you get to kind of decompress and walk out of here with some fresh energy. So that's an easy add massage. Give our office a call. We're happy to connect you with the right therapist that will make a really big impact. I'll also say later this month is Massage Awareness Week, and so we're going to be having tons of giveaways. We're going to be, the last week of the month is going to be all about massage, and we've got some really fun, cool events, prizes, and things happening inside the office that week. So stay tuned for that. Number 8 is essential oils. In our office, we've been using essential oils a lot more. We're diffusing them a lot more. Our therapists have been using them more frequently here and there. Adding essential oil and aromatherapy to our massages is something that we're going to be focusing on during that massage week, and then ongoing after that. I think that there's tremendous benefit to aromatherapy and essential oils. And so we're digging and diving into some of those, that research, and coming up with some blends and ideas that will heighten your experience in the office and our massage table, but also, at home. So some places that you want to typically use oils would be behind the ears, your wrists. With our kids, a lot of times, like at night, if they're having trouble falling asleep, or they're just amped up right before bed, we'll put some lavender on the bottoms of their feet, and then put some socks on. That's a really has been really beneficial. And so we could probably do I could do a whole podcast, and maybe we will sometime, on essential oils. I'll be the first to admit I'm not the essential oils guy. I think there's some benefit, but I'm not the guy that has dug into, and I'm certainly not the expert on essential oils. I believe in them. I think there's benefits, and I think diffusing them or using them on yourselves, specifically certain blends and oils, will affect stress, reduce anxiety. I do think there's something to that. So we'll be getting into more of that soon. The second, so besides exercise, the second biggest impact that I have implemented recently, over the last month or so, is setting limits to my phone. And these aren't just limits where it's like, okay, I need to be on my phone less. Yes, but I'm forcing those limits. And so I've got an iPhone. You can go into settings, and under screen time, click on app limits, and you can limit your time use per day. You can limit your time use after a certain period of time. So typically mine is set to shut down from 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. And so I can still use my phone if I have to. And certain apps, like my journaling app, I don't put a limit on. That's the exception, because if I want to use that, that's benefiting me. But I certainly turn off my email. I turn off my social media apps. Anything that's going to be a huge distraction to me, I put a limit on those. And so if I want to use them, I still can, but I have to go through a couple of extra taps saying that I want to ignore the limit that I have self-imposed on it. So I think that's great. Ideally, I would love to just lock my phone up in a box. So I'm not to that point yet. But I think limiting how much you're on social media right now, and specifically how late you're on those things. Scrolling for an hour or two right before you go to bed is one of the absolute worst possible things you can do to get a good night's sleep, right? You've got the blue light exposure, you've got the stresses of anxiety of what people are posting online. There's just so many bad things about staying up late, scrolling, whether it's on your phone or on your iPad, or your laptop. One of the worst things you can do. So this is my number one thing right now, is app limits. And so for Android phones or any other types of phones, There has to be a way to do it. I don't know what those are. If you need help figuring out where it is with your iPhone, stop in the office. I'm happy to help you to show you where that's at, and you can set those up. Next is gut health. So your gut is the home of trillions of bacteria. In fact, you've got 10 times more bacteria in your body than you have in your cells in your body. 80% of your immune system resides in your gut. 95% of your body's serotonin, which is the hormone that allows you to feel good, resides in your gut and is produced and found in your gut. And so your digestive health, your gut health, plays a vital role in your mental health. So very interesting. Symptoms to look out for in this regard are leaky gut, food intolerances, SIBO or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, yeast. We're seeing a ton of people with yeast issues right now. There's there's saliva, not saliva, but like a spit test you can do that's really easy. But we've also been doing stool tests in the office that show you yeast and candida overgrowth, food allergies, acid reflux, diarrhea, bloating, constipation, IBS, fibromyalgia, and chronic gut inflammation. There's a negative feedback loop, right? So these things cause additional stress to your body. Mental stress and anxiety have a huge impact on these digestive related issues. And so there's a flora, a gut, a GI flora balance program that's 6 weeks. I would highly recommend. It's going to be a combination of essentially you're taking it's a 3-step process that Angela can help you walk through, but it's divided into weed, seed, and feed. And so you're weeding out the bad bacteria, you're planting positive or good bacteria into the system, and then you're feeding the good bacteria what they need and eliminating what the bad bacteria usually feeds on, which is typically carbohydrates and sugar. And so there's a diet protocol, there's a supplement protocol that you can take. It's 6 weeks, and it's to balance your entire GI system. So it's a great program. We've got several people on it right now, and the results between bloating, just how you're feeling, sleeping, you'd be amazed at how many different things are connected to your gut health. And so that's an amazing 6-week program. Doesn't take months and months. Sometimes it does for people, but if this is a relatively new issue for you, then these are things that can be addressed and taken care of and fixed. The next one is along the same lines nutritionally, and that's looking at cortisol. And so balancing out your adrenal glands. So your adrenal glands are what produces cortisol. Cortisol is what is your stress hormone. So when you're super stressed, whether that's a physical stress, like you're actually being chased, or it's a mental stress where you're just fearful and anxious a lot, your body produces more cortisol. And so a lot of times your adrenal glands can get stressed out and maxed out. And so supporting those adrenal glands, ultimately you want to reduce your level of stress. However, you can also address and support your body's mechanism on how it's handling that. And so adrenal health is super important. Nourishing adrenal glands and regulating cortisol will maintain, again, healthy microbiome and as well as emotional balance. And so cortisol needs an outlet. And so there's a way that to, again, kind of balance those issues. Some of it is through lifestyle management, some of it is through dealing with emotional issues and trauma, and some of it are supplemental ways to support the adrenal glands. A big one is adrenal complex, as well as ashwagandha. The next mental health tip that we have to just support yourself right now is napping. So it increases alertness, improves creativity, recall, and memory the second half of the day. It's also good for catching up on lost sleep. Ideally, so sleep is going to be something we talk about, but ideally you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Most people aren't getting that, or their level of sleep is really poor. And so taking a nap, typically it's 20 minutes or so in the middle part of the day. Ideally, you want to nap 7 to 8 hours after you've woken up. So depending on what time you typically wake up in the morning, 7 to 8 hours later is usually the best time to take a nap, so that you're not taking a nap too late in the afternoon. Body rhythm wise, that 7 to 8 hours is a time where your body is naturally going to see a little bit of a lull and a dip. And so that's a great time to take a nap. Next, right along with the napping and sleeping, reminders would be to watch your coffee intake. So low doses of caffeine can improve mental performance, but high doses or other types of nervous system stimulants flood the brain with neurotransmitters, and the more often that you do that, the more that you need those things to get the same sorts of benefits. And so taking a coffee break, or for a week, or extremely, if you don't want to go cold turkey, extremely limiting your coffee intake for a week can have a really huge impact on kind of resetting those neurotransmitters and the endorphins that coffee helps or releases for you. So if you find yourself needing more and more and more coffee through the day, taking a week where you back off of that, cutting it significantly, like down to a quarter of what you would normally do, or even less, super beneficial, and kind of hitting the reset button in the amount of caffeine that you need to normally function. It's also a diuretic, and so it'll lead to dehydration. It'll lead to other sorts of a lot of times sleep will be infected by having coffee. If you are a slow coffee processor, which about half of the population is fast, half of it is slow. If you're a slow processor, 12 hours later, half of that caffeine is still in your system, and it doesn't take much to interfere with sleep. Even if you can fall asleep quickly, you're not going to be getting into the deep stages of sleep if you are a slow coffee processor and you've had that afternoon coffee. So be mindful of when and how much coffee that you're taking. And last but not least is what we've recently been talking about, but sleep. Sleep is one of the most restorative functions that you can focus on. Setting yourself up for sleep is vitally important, because the deeper sleep, the non-REM sleep that you can get, and the REM sleep are what helps you process your emotions and events of the day and kind of catalogs it. And so that's going to be where you work through certain problems or issues or, again, emotions on a subconscious level. And so if you're getting really poor sleep, you're not getting enough sleep, it's going to compound the amount of stress that we are all under right now. We did a really great podcast a while back on, and I want to say it was 7 or 12 things to improve your sleep. So I would go back and take a listen to that. In general, though, you're going to want to watch how much screen time you have right before bed. You're going to want to sleep in a really dark room. You're going to want to sleep in a cold room. And you want to try to get at least 7 or 8 hours. If you can just do those things, it's going to make a really big impact on your sleep level. In the podcast, we dive a lot deeper into why those work, as well as magnesium and valerian and some other products that can aid in sleep. But sleep is super, super important, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So again, I'm here for you as an office. We are here for you. These are just some easy, simple tips, tricks, and resources that as an office we believe in. And so if you have any questions or want to dive deeper into any of these topics, or you need some coaching on one of these topics, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll see you later. Thanks, everyone.